What if the killer never left the house?
4 days of silence. Then the horror was uncovered.
This was the forgotten Hinterkaifeck farm.
A small family living far from everyone. But this isolation from everyone didn't bring them peace.
Shortly before the crime, strange incidents occurred. A mysterious newspaper no one knew the source of.
Then, footprints appeared in the snow.
These footprints led to the door and never came back. Suddenly, the house keys disappeared.
At night, footsteps were heard in the attic.
They searched the attack, but found no one.
Despite their fear, they never asked anyone for help.
Several accounts later spoke of a fight before the last night. It was said that the mother, Victoria, fled toward the forest. But she didn't know where to run. And a mustached man was watching the house. Then came the 31st of March. The new maid arrived at the farm that day. The maid was the last to see them alive. As night fell, a heavy silence settled in. And in the darkness, someone was waiting.
On the 1st of April, no one answered at the house.
They knocked on doors and windows and circled the yard. Inside, little Joseph the child lay in his bed. A real photo of little Joseph, murdered in his bed.
They noticed the farm tool shed gate was open.
But fear drove them to leave.
The following days brought growing worry to the village. The little girl never showed up at school.
Even the mailman found the letters untouched.
Then the neighbors decided to head to the farm. Real footage of villagers gathering to begin the search for the family.
And upon entering the barn, the horrifying truth was revealed.
The investigation and the suspects.
News spread quickly through the neighboring villages.
Police finally arrived at the isolated farm.
But the crime scene wasn't preserved.
Some neighbors had entered before the investigators arrived.
Real photo from the interrogation room.
Interrogations began in a cold, silent room. Everyone in the village became a suspect.
But one name came up more than any other.
Lorenz Schlittenbauer, the nearby neighbor.
Lorenz Schlittenbauer, real photo.
He was the first to enter the house alone.
When questioned, he claimed he was looking for his young son.
But his behavior raised serious suspicion.
He knew details that hadn't been made public yet. Some believed he was the father of the child, Joseph, and that he'd had a past relationship with Victoria. Then another, stranger theory emerged. Carl Gabriel, the husband said to have died in the war. but the police never found conclusive evidence against him. Yet, after several investigations, his body was never recovered. Did he come back for revenge? Questions began to arise. Rumors fed the fear for years to come. Prisoners of war claimed they'd seen him alive.
But their testimonies faded over time.
The investigation dragged on with no result. Months passed, and the killer remained unknown. A century later, the case remains unsolved.
German police mark 100 years since the crime.
Now, only a silent memorial stands in the fields.
The farmhouse itself no longer exists.
But the questions are still alive to this day.
Who was hiding in the attic?
And why did the killer live among them before ending their lives?
The investigation didn't stop at one name.
Adolf Gump was among the suspects.
A man linked to other violent crimes. But his presence at the scene was never proven. Then, the name Peter Weber appeared. He was said to have talked about killing the old man. But words alone don't make a killer. The Thaler brothers also fell under suspicion. They knew details about the rooms and the money. But suspicion never turned into evidence. Then, a more terrifying theory emerged. What if the killer didn't leave the farm right away? Strikingly, the animals were fed after the murders. Smoke kept rising from the chimney, as if someone was still living there. Maybe he slept in the attic, watching them for days before carrying out the act. An idea that makes the crime even more terrifying. Years passed, then decades. The farm had been completely demolished. Yet through it all, the mystery wasn't buried with it. The files were officially closed. But the questions remained open. And the central question, who was the man in the forest? Was revenge his motive? Or was he a neighbor who knew their secrets? Or a stranger who lived among them in silence? 6 lives vanished in a single night. A story that still haunts Germany to this day. And Hinterkaifeck still whispers in the dark. 6 names on the stone, and 1 name still unwritten.